Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Airpods Pro Clones from Knockies, the KP Pros. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so today's video we're going to be taking a look at these. These are the KP Pros. These are from Knockies. They are an affiliate, so if you do want to purchase these, links will be in the description below. Every time you do buy something from Knockies, I do get a small commission on that, so just to be completely upfront about that, straight off the bat, so you know exactly where I'm coming from. Now, Knockies haven't paid me to do this review. They've sent me these free of charge for a review, and I'm going to go through some of the pros and some of the cons. KP Pros. Oh, anyway, I'm going to go through the pros and cons, let you know what I think is good about them, what I don't like about them, and whether I think you should buy them. So let's go through it. Okay, so first of all, let's go through the pros. Now the pros, the box itself looks pretty much one for one as the original Apple version, the AirPods Pros. The differences being on the side, you've got a Knockies logo, and on the top you've got a barcode, and that is pretty much it for the sides. Essentially it's all the same. The front looks pretty much one for one, and actually the picture on the front is embossed like it is with the original AirPods Pro. Whether or not that makes any difference to you, I don't know. Personally, to me, it makes no difference whatsoever. I personally couldn't care less about the packaging. It's what's about actually inside it which makes a difference. But for those of you that are purists and want them to be one-for-one clones, they kind of are and they kind of aren't. So the box at first glances does look to be the real deal. But obviously having a Knockies logo and not having an Apple logo and things like that is a bit of a difference. On the back of the box, you've got the same picture as you would on the original, but underneath you've got a serial number, the model number KP Pro, and also you've got a Knockies Scan Me. So using your QR reader, you can scan that, find out more information and get a user manual, all those kinds of things. So as far as clones are concerned, if I was to give this a rating out of 10 against the originals, I would say this probably deserves a good 7.5, maybe an 8. So that's the box part of it out of the way. Let's take a look and see what's actually inside the box. Now, speaking of this, I've already had these out and I've tested them a little bit, so I do know what I'm talking about. This isn't a completely fresh review. And the one thing I will say about the box, it's bloody difficult to get open. See what I mean? Okay, so inside the box you're greeted with what you'd pretty much expect. So inside everything looks pretty much the same. You've got the AirPods Pros themselves, which from what I can tell are very similar size and weight. Well, size-wise I would say they're pretty much identical. The weight-wise they are slightly lighter. I have actually weighed them and I'll put some links below or put some pop-ups there so you can know the actual weight difference. But essentially if you were to weigh them both in both hands, the originals and the clones, you wouldn't notice a difference, but if you're going to put them on some scales, then yes, there is a slight difference. So as far as actual weight and the initial looks, again, out of 10, I'd probably give them a good 9. Delving deeper into the box, there's not a whole lot else going on here. We've got a USB cable. Now this actually, oddly, which I don't quite understand why, is USB Type-C to a lightning connector, which for some people is going to be a real struggle because a lot of people still don't have a USB-C type device in the house. So if you haven't, you're going to need to get yourself an adapter or use an older lightning cable. So as the out-of-box experience goes, if I was to mark this out of 10, I'd probably give this a 5 at best. Now, as these are a pre-production sample or a pre-release sample, I don't have any instructions in mind. You will, obviously, but these are the ones that have been sent prior to the launch. So the instructions for me are going to be from the QR code. But essentially, all the instructions you could want are actually on the Knockies website. So if you go over to there, I'll put the links in the description. You can check out what all the buttons do, and you can see what the instructions are. So let's take a look at the AirPods Pros in more depth. So the actual box itself feels very well made, very good construction. The lid has got a very nice hinge to it, and it's snapped shut as you'd expect from AirPods clones. And the click actually is a very nice reassuring click. It slams shut. Looking at the manufacturing process, it does look like there's a very, very close tolerance there for the actual plastic to plastic. So that has been made very well. That is a very good job. On the back, the silver hinged part is actually a slightly different shade. Again, if you're being a complete purist, the color of the silver on the back there is slightly different from the originals. But again, if you hold them side by side, you would definitely notice it. But if you're just to receive these, you wouldn't have a clue. Another very minor difference is the actual button on the back that you press to pair them. The button on this one is very, very slightly recessed. It's not completely flush with the box, whereas with the original Apple ones, they are completely flush. Now for me personally, I actually find this a little bit easier because when you're pairing them, generally you'll have them with the button at the back, and actually having it slightly recessed makes the button a lot easier to find. So let's see how quickly they pair. Now I've charged these up fully so they're ready to go, and all you do to actually pair them for the first time is to literally open the lid on the box. So we'll go ahead and do that, and these flip up exceptionally quickly, so hopefully you can pick it up. It comes up saying not your AirPods Pro, and you can see the reaction time is exceptionally good. I would say it's probably a second if that. So if I was to rate the pop-up, I would say that's definitely a 10 out of 10. I can't see you doing any better than that. So let's go through the full pairing process. I'll just adjust my brightness so you can actually see the screen. So to pair them, lift up the flap, and press on connect, and then you get the message to hold the button on the back. And it says connecting. And there we go, we're done. So it goes through the instructions as you'd get if you paired them the originals. So you've got media control, noise control, all those kinds of things. Now the one thing that these don't actually have, which does pop up on here because they think it's actually original AirPod Pros, these don't have the squeeze gesture on the side of the stalk. So for me, actually, I prefer that. The squeeze gesture is a little bit of a weird thing if you ask me personally. So we get the option here to set up Hey Siri. I'm not going to go do that because I actually don't like using Siri at all, but you can use the Siri function, so you just press and hold on the side and Siri will pop up and you can ask all those kind of usual questions. So now we've paired them, as soon as we pop them up, we get the message on there. So we get AirPods Pro, and it tells us our battery levels, which are actually accurate. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual pods themselves. So pretty much one for one. These do actually have, which some people may dislike, they do have a flashing blue LED, which lights up during the pairing process. So I have noticed some other reviews of these, various other places, haven't actually touched on that. And I know for a lot of people, having LEDs on AirPods is a definite no-no. Now, the original ones, as far as I can tell, I don't know because I don't own them because I don't have that kind of money. But from what I can tell, the original ones don't have a flashing LED either. So there is actually a blue LED on these, which will illuminate once you take them out of the pack for the first time to do their initial pairing. So do be wary of that. But when you actually come to look at them themselves, they actually do look exactly the same as the originals. Again, I haven't got another pair here to put alongside, but they do look exactly the same from the pictures I've seen, the blow-ups I've seen, and from other reviews I've seen. You've got all the usual features, so you've got the in-ear sensor, you've also got the dots in all the right places, the actual ear tips themselves, I would say are slightly harder plastic. Just by actually touching them, they do feel they're slightly harder silicone than the originals, and they are a very, very slight different shape. But again, that's going to be inside your ear, so you're never going to notice that. And also, if you didn't have the originals to hand and compare them side by side, again, you would never know for sure. So let's try them in our ears and see how they actually sound. So they do actually have, yes they do have an LNR on them, written as they would do. So we'll stick them in and see how it goes. I'll turn that down so I can actually hear myself speaking. So straight away, because I put them on my ear, they've resumed playing the music that I was listening to before. So if I pause that now, so one press to pause, and that works in the left hand side or the right hand side. If you press the button twice, then it goes to the next track. If you press 3 times, it goes to the previous track, and that works the same in both ears. Now the noise cancelling in these is passive noise cancelling, not active, unfortunately, like the originals. But again, the originals, you're looking at $250. These at the moment retail for around about $100, so there is a massive savings to be made. If noise cancelling is a thing for you, maybe you're on a busy commute and you have a discussion on the telephone, whatever it is, noise cancelling may be a kind of deal breaker for you, because the noise cancelling isn't great on these as regard to telephone calls and for two-way speech. But for music wise, if you're listening, the passive sound cancelling is more than adequate. And as you probably notice, I'm actually possibly speaking a little bit quieter because I really can't tell how loud I'm talking, because they are sealing out the outside world completely at the moment. So I do apologise if the audio levels are slightly off. So we'll resume the playback, and the music quality is actually very, very good. It's very clear, very crisp. The sound stage is it's somewhere central. It's not slightly louder on one side or the other, which is sometimes a problem with some of these AirPods. I would say, if anything, the bass is slightly lacking, especially for a inner ear bud. I would say actually, if you're looking for a more bassy sound, you might actually be better off going for the KP1s rather than the KP Pros, which might be a slightly controversial decision. So we'll just pause that again now, and I'll actually take them outside so I can actually hear properly what I'm saying. So the noise cancelling, the passive noise cancelling, is actually really, really good on those. Very impressive. You can't fault that at all. Obviously, like I said, it doesn't have the electronic or digital noise cancellation, so for some that may be a big deal breaker. Let's look at some of the specs of these. So if you're looking at the actual kind of things like battery life, and I'm going to read this off of the site so I don't get it wrong. So the battery life, we're looking at 3.5 to 4.5 hour playback time, which for some of you that have been following Knockies and also other AirPods, you may seem that that is slightly lower than what we've been used to. From the early days, the earlier clones, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours was where we were heading. The KP1s actually will last kind of 6 hours, even 7 hours at very low volumes. So we're actually taking a little bit of a step back, in my opinion, with the KP Pros, which, again, I'm really kind of not totally sold by the AirPod Pros. They are a good clone, they work well, the sound quality is excellent, there's no problems with that whatsoever, they pair fantastically. So everything that you could want from the AirPod Pros is here. But for me, I still think the KP ones are the ones that take the win at the moment, which again is probably not what you guys are wanting to hear, but I'm being completely honest with you. For me personally, the KP ones are the clear winner. And if you want me to do a dedicated review video between the KP ones and the KP Pros, please let me know in the comment section. I'll be glad to do that for you, just so that you can experience what I've been experiencing. I say these are very good. I've got no problems with them as such, but I do feel that the KP ones are the better choice. So let's reel off some of the other specs. So again, we've got touch controls. Now the touch controls actually are very, very good. They're very accurate. Doing the fast forward and rewinding, all that kind of stuff has been absolutely fantastic. So the touch controls have been improved immensely over any of the actual previous AirPod clones. I would say these are definitely a win in that particular case. And if I was going to give these a marking out of 10 for the actual touch sensitivity and the in-ear sensitivity, like when you take them out of the ears to stop playing and all that kind of stuff, the ear control, definitely a 10 out of 10. I can't fault it at all. Whereas some of the previous clones, even including the glorious KP ones, even those at times did have a few little sort of snags and didn't always recognize a key press, but these are absolutely fantastic. So 10 out of 10 for that. Charging time, we've got a 1 hour charging time, which is pretty much the standard kind of deal nowadays. You've got 400 plus hours of standby time. Again, standby time, is that a big deal or not? Personally, it doesn't bother me because I'll just put them on charge anyway in my Knockies charger. So as per usual, the case will recharge the buds fully 3 to 4 times. Again, obviously depends how much you've used them, but if they're completely flat, then I'd say it's probably going to be closer to 3 times than 4. You've got the ability to use the earbuds independently or simultaneously. So obviously you've got 3 to 4 times of recharging on these. You've got an estimated maximum playback time of 4.5 hours on these. So if you did want to sort of lengthen out the time or listening time or even your cool time, then you could use one, leave one in the charging bay and sort them out accordingly. That will obviously give you double the lifespan. So that is kind of nice. And actually in use, when I've tried doing this, taking them out, putting one in, it's completely seamless. You don't have to worry about repairing or forgetting them and then re-adding them separately. It just works, which again, if I was giving that a 10 out of 10, yeah, 10 out of 10 would be the thing. They've really come on, especially with the Bluetooth connectivity. That works absolutely flawlessly, using them individually, and we don't get all those crazy things that we used to get where 2 devices would show up at the same time or only one would work, all that kind of stuff. Literally, it's just, this is the real deal as far as that is concerned. So you've got usual things, so battery levels are displayed on the phone. Obviously that is more for iOS than it is for Android. Android users can still check in the menu and get an estimation of the battery life, and obviously again, Android users won't get the pop-up notifications or the pop-up for connectivity. It's just a case of going into settings and adding or removing the device. You get fast shipping from the USA, and they also ship worldwide. And of course, as per usual with Knockies, you get the 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you're a little bit on the fence, you're not sure, and again, they are quite new out, so maybe you are unsure, maybe you want to put your toes into the water and see if they're right for you, you can order them from Knockies, check them out, try them for 30 days. If you don't like them, then Knockies will obviously sort you out and either take them back or exchange them for another set. Me personally, I'd probably get them to exchange them for the KP ones, but again, that's just my personal opinion. So going further down to some of the specs, these are the KP Pros by Knockies. Bluetooth version is Bluetooth 5.0. The port on the charging base on the bottom is your lightning connector, as it is with pretty much all the clones these days. The Bluetooth range is actually fantastic again. I would definitely give this a kind of 9 or 10 out of 10. I don't think you can get much better. They do go on for ages. I've put these on, I've left the case down here, left the phone down here, gone upstairs to the bathroom, and the music has continued playing until I've got back. In the UK, we've got pretty thick old walls, so that normally kills Bluetooth straight away. Most of the other clones that I've used, they start dying off as soon as I get sort of halfway up the stairs, so they've been absolutely fantastic. I haven't been able to test them distance-wise outside in the real world because, well, it's been awful weather here recently, but with the phone just in my back pocket and walking along listening to them, they've been absolutely fine with no problems whatsoever. So as far as Bluetooth is concerned, I don't think you're going to have any issues there at all. So battery capacity for each earbud, or sorry, for the earbuds is 80 milliamp hours, and the case itself is 400 milliamp hours, and the output is rated at 30 milliwatts, whatever that means. But essentially, I would say as a first generation clone of the AirPods Pro, these are pretty damn good. I don't think you can fault them too much at all. The slight differences, which actually are probably helpful for things like copyright infringements and all that kind of stuff, if they said Apple on them and they were exactly one-for-one clones completely, then obviously you'd have your problems with customs and copyright and all those kinds of things, which are never a good thing, especially when you're having things shipped in the post. But as far as looks like the first generation go, I think these are pretty good. Personally, I prefer the KP ones, but if you're dead set on KP Pros or AirPod Pros and this is what you want, then I don't think you can actually get better anywhere else on the market at present. So I've been Mike, these have been the KP Pros, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Oh, and don't forget, if you've got any comments or questions, stick them in the box below. Thanks for watching.